Great to be here at this great panel at unBound this year. It's our first year that NASDAQ's been here, so it's an honor to be here. We are going to talk about corporate growth through innovation, and we've got a great group of panelists joining me on the stage. Quick introductions: David Plum from OT Telefonica Digital. Dave is the digital director at O2, where he's responsible for bringing new products to market. We also have John Lunn from PayPal. John, good friend of mine. PayPal is listed on NASDAQ, but John oversees the global developer network and startup relationships for PayPal, specifically their Start Tank incubators in London and Chennai, and their startup Blueprint program. We also have Christian from Allianz, and he leads the innovation efforts at Allianz, which is obviously the world's largest insurance company. And then lastly, we have Noah Lyons, who is Director of Digital Design at Barclays. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. I'm going to try to moderate the panel, but I'm going to leave a lot of the conversation to you guys, because you guys are experts in innovation. At NASDAQ, I get to see a lot of great ideas around innovation. And NASDAQ's been around for 41 years, but our goal is always to make sure that we're helping entrepreneurs innovate. We just launched an entrepreneurial center in San Francisco, which is a nonprofit dedicated to really educating the next generation of entrepreneurs. So we see entrepreneurship and innovation as core to NASDAQ, but I know it's core to a lot of your businesses. So maybe we'll start out with you, John. You could talk a little bit about how you at PayPal identify opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship at PayPal.
So I don't know if this is working. It is. Excellent. So we have a number of different areas that we're going. Obviously, as a .com type company, we feel that we have to constantly keep innovating and not sit still on our laurels. So either we do a lot of internal innovation, but we actually invest quite a lot out into the startup community as well. So we have a program for startups called Blueprint. We have 1,400 startups in that program. Basically, we take very early stage startups straight from the incubator, so you can't apply, you have to be nominated. And we help these, we basically give them free payment processing for a year and a half, up to like $1.8 million of free processing. And we advise them and we help them. And the biggest thing we found from the startups, they don't really, at this stage, it's not only investment they want, they actually want introductions to clients. And we have a huge client base. So from the Blueprint, we develop these early stage startups, and obviously a lot fail, and that's fine, that's good. And the ones that succeed, we can bring in and work with some of our client base. If they want a home, we have an incubator unit in London called Start Tank, where we actually host 6 startups. We don't take any investment in any of these, by the way. So all of these startups, you come and you work with us. We don't invest in you. We don't take anything out of it. You spend 6 months with us in the incubator, and hopefully at the end of it, you've grown. And so far, out of the 2 batches, we've had huge amount of growth for them. We've had a Chinese startup called Mehabao just raised 1.8 million in their first 3 months of existing, just as a good idea. We've got many of their startups growing 200% month on month, just crazy growth. And really for us, we want to, give back to ecosystem. We also want to see what the next generation of startups want. And that's really when innovation comes to it. Like, how are we going to be doing payment in 5 years, not how are we doing payment now?
Right, that's great, good point. So Christian, like a stock exchange, you don't think of the largest insurance company in the world being innovative, but I have seen a lot of the companies, especially with the Entrepreneurial Center we just launched. We have GE Ventures, we have a lot of large cap companies that are looking to innovate. So we'd love to hear kind of how you see innovation at Allianz.
Yeah, well, so actually in the insurance industry, innovation is a quite new topic. So building a real innovation function that really cares about a structured process to come from an idea to a real product to the market. So we have, let's say we are also having different streams. I think in the end we are not so different at all. So we have an internal innovation stream, sure, that's more on a strategic perspective. We also have internal innovation contests. So this year we had the first innovation challenge where we really reached out to our internal employees to build new business models. And now we are treating them more or less as internal entrepreneurs, really, helping them, mentoring them to bring these ideas really to the market. And obviously, sure, we also do this with externals. So with startups, we have different possibilities, let's say, different options to go. One thing is really to invest into them with our Allianz Digital Ventures unit, which has been built this year. We also have digital accelerators, one in Munich and one in Nice. So this is going on since some years now. also very successful. We have a model there with entrepreneurs in residence as well. So that's, I think, a really successful model, providing the infrastructure around the entrepreneurs and helping them to really build their product, and also providing them the contacts to the big 150,000 Allianz employees company. And for sure, we also help with building the market together. Our services are quite attachable to other products. So we are not only an insurance company. Allianz Worldwide Partners is also the biggest assistance company on the world. So we can have micro insurances, micro services that we can attach to existing products and helping them to build their value proposition and test it and try this on the market.
Great. Noel, how about you? From digital design at Barclays. So tell us how you innovate there.
So I'm part of the broader digital team, and we're constantly, obviously, looking at different ways that we can converse with our customers and serve them and provide services. But I mean, as a business, we've tried to innovate. For a long period of time, we did the first ATM, we did the first credit card, we did the first peer-to-peer mobile payments app with Ping It, and we're constantly trying to sort of push that forward. So around the world, we have a number of different innovation hubs. Our RISE hubs around the world it's our way of kind of mentoring and growing companies that we think are really interesting and ones that we think we might be able to work with. So we've got hubs in New York and London, Cape Town, Tel Aviv. We just started one up in Mumbai as well, and this is sort of maturing quite nicely. So we're actually starting to work with quite a lot of these companies. So in New York, we're partnering up with 10 out of the 11 that we've been sort of nurturing. Up to that point, we've got 7 out of London. Mumbai, which is quite a recent one. I just got an email just now. We had a hackathon last night where we had 460 people kind of coding away. We've had sort of 43 working prototypes off of it. So it's sort of something that's kind of gains us a lot of momentum. It allows us to move really quickly. But we're trying to sort of push it beyond just the sort of, how can we invest in potential partners and grow sort of companies? Because we've got a launch pad as well, which is actually about trying to take these ideas as quickly as possible and get them in front of our customers and find out what our customers think about these new products. Because I mean, that's where the real benefit for us lies. It's not innovation for innovation's sake. It's innovation that can benefit our customers. What new ideas can we get to people really, really quickly, and then we get live feedback from that. So we get a nice kind of throughput, and for us, it sort of makes the circle complete on the sort of innovation.
So for your innovation hub, do you think that's with different initiatives you are getting the customer feedback? We hear innovation hub a lot. A lot of companies have innovation hubs around the country. I see them all the time popping up. So do you think the customer feedback is kind of, what is the unique benefit you're getting from it?
Well, it allows us to channel that benefit straight through to our customers as well, which is kind of one of the ways that we want to really leverage it. I think it's a useful way to position innovation, so it feels like it's tangible. Obviously, there's an awful lot of innovation in the fintech industry, and we're at the helm of that as well. There's an awful lot about APIs and blockchain, and where should the financial industry go with that? And obviously, we're on all of the main kind of panels for that. We are immersed in that discussion. But for us, it's about how do we actually kind of get it out there, get it to our customers.
As are we. We're one of the early investors in blockchain technology, and we think it could be an interesting way to disrupt exchange technology as we go forward. So, David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I'd say is that we're set up to drive innovation in that centrally we have an R&D function, dedicated resources. So we're looking at new capabilities that we can then take out to customers and to startups and partners so that they can look at what they might want to do with those capabilities. So, I mean, a good example is we run a sandbox program here in the UK where we share APIs into the network. We work with startups, so for example, one startup built a mobile voice recording business sitting on the top of our API and went out to market and sold that product, and we share in the rewards jointly. So we have a sandbox proposition that we can do that. You probably also know us for the Wira incubator that everybody mentions their incubators. So Wira is something that we do where we bring people in, we invest every 6 months. And I suppose Wira for us is not just about changing our business, it's about the ability to go B2B to C. So, people like Qdini that allow, better queuing in shops, or RotorGeek so that the retailer can have better rotors. We put that into our own business, but actually now we're looking to go B2B to C, integrate it into a fuller proposition so that we're able to take the startups with us out to see our biggest customers, and they mold the next generation of what's going to happen, basically. So I think that's kind of the way that we see it.
Interesting. All different approaches, but all seem pretty effective. Just a quick question, maybe we'll start with Noel, and just wondering, who has influenced you personally on innovation, and what do you see as possibly the next area that is ripe for innovation, especially with what you do and just in general?
Yeah, I mean, for me, personally, I'm very influenced by the work that's been going on with gov.uk, just on their kind of approach to developing ideas, which is extremely iterative and it's extremely sort of user-centric. So getting ideas out as quickly as possible to people and getting that kind of sort of feedback and getting and understanding what works and what doesn't. There's a decent amount of thinking about what happens beforehand, but then actually it's let's try it and let's find out how it works. It's basically taking the kind of sort of startup methodology, but applying it for the government, which is got to be one of the most bureaucratic and slow-moving kind of organisations you can find, and they've managed to actually at real pace and with real scale completely change their systems and their ways of working, and as a result the facility that they have now to actually launch new products, new sites, new services, and actually help people who are effectively paying for it is really stunning. And I think it's managed to take that kind of really that great kind of let's try it out, let's see what works in the marketplace methodology, and really move it along, really kind of evolve it, and that I think is something that we're trying to implement as well, to try and get that customer feedback or that user feedback into our thinking, so we can get better at doing that.
Yeah, government's definitely an area that needs innovation. But John, what are your thoughts? Besides, payment processing, we're seeing a lot involved in fintech right now. But what do you see as the next area ripe for innovation?
Well, the first question was who's my influences.
Yep.
So I read sci-fi, and I read a lot of sci-fi, and I literally, and I probably read a book a week. And I tend to read sci-fi books, right. And I get a lot of influence over where things could go from sci-fi rather than what's happening now. And you're seeing a lot of stuff, you've got Snow Crash, you've got VR happening this year. That was predicted a while ago. So you can actually just look at these books, and I get a lot of inspiration of what we're going to build next, what am I going to build next, from imagining stuff that can't possibly happen now. So that's part of it. I think.
So you recommend The Martian then?
Sorry?
You recommend reading The Martian, right?
Yeah, read everything you can. Read a lot. But I think the really big area for me at the moment is, and I've been talking about it, I've written some articles about it recently, is machines. It's time for machines to start paying for us. And I think that's a big area, and everybody's talking about mobile. I think, when everybody's talking about something, it's done. It's when people are starting to talk about something, and I think really we're getting to the stage now with technology that our machines can start shopping for us now. And it's whether we as human beings are ready to let that happen. And I think we nearly are. So that's an area I think is going to make a big difference. And if I was a grocer at the moment, I would be scared, because really, you can pretty much get every form of food delivered to you now, cooked, uncooked, or even with a chef. Why do I need to go to a grocery store? And why will I need to go to a grocery store? So I think that's an area it's going to be pretty exciting to see.
That's a good point. David, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest, I admire the dreamers, the people that want to change society, you know, the Gates and those people like that. And, you know, for me, trying to take that on to kind of answer the second part of the question, you know, if I look at someone like Zuckerberg and he's talking about, you know, the brain-computer interface and, you know, the ability to be able to update your Facebook straight from your brain, may not be the most exciting innovation, but actually what that might do for science and for health, and the ability for us as a community to communicate and feel like one community, having that brain-computer interface, for me, I think that's the next kind of place that's ripe for innovation.
Christian, any thoughts?
Yes, so for me, it's, let's say I'm not directly influenced by something. I would say, as an innovator, you have to be open. So with every talk, you get something you can use for you. And it's not just about copying, it's more about, well, being influenced by it, because what's working for PayPal, or what's working for Barclays might not work for Allianz, because just of the setup. So it's more about thinking, well, how could we apply this in our approach? Because there's, of course, a strategy behind what we do. So we have a plan, and it's also the whole innovation process for me is test and fail. So we were just returning, we had a hackathon in London on the weekend as well. So we worked long towards it, but in the end, you know, okay, we have to change this, this, and this for the next time to improve the results. And for me, the next big thing is really that we think a bit more user-centric. So when we walk around, so we see many technology around, so smart home systems, everything. But it's really think, well, what does it give us in the end? So how can we put all this together to make the life easier, to make it seamlessly integrated, to accompany us well, on our daily life? And I think when we have reached that state, then we have really brought some value out of it.
Yeah, that's a great lead into my next question would be, you know, how do you measure success? These are large corporations, you're doing small investments and small projects here and there, but how do you really measure that your organization is being successful in innovation?
Yeah, well, so innovation is also, let's say, a percentage of something. So the more you work on it, the more, let's say, projects you have in your pipeline, the more there is, let's say, a chance to get something out of it. So let's say innovations that are at a certain state, so at a pilot state, if you got an innovation from an idea such far, this is really an achievement, and that's something you can really measure. Up to then, I think, well, it's really difficult to benchmark it all.
Yeah, I think it is hard. We have, at NASDAQ, we have the concept of a gift program, so you can come to the executive committee and ask for dollars for investment for a new idea. And there you can measure it, obviously, and see if the success of those. But if you look at the money that you're investing in that versus the overall revenues of the company, it's pretty minimal. So I think it's just hard to measure. What about you? What about you, John?
So I don't think measuring success is the right way to do innovation.
Right.
And I think no company can afford not to do it. So, and I think it kills a lot of innovation program when someone goes, how can we measure this thing?
Right.
So the truth is you can't. If you look at any stat across any kind of innovation startup, I mean, 86% of startups fail, right? What investor would throw their money that way? And there's a load of them called VCs. But companies are much more reticent to do that, especially big companies. If you go to, your executive board and say, I've got a project, it's an 86% chance it will fail, they'll show you the door. But that's unfortunately how innovation works. So it's really, adding measures on whether it's successful or not, I think is really dangerous, and I think actually kills it. The truth is, if you don't innovate, you're going to die. So as a company, it's almost something you just have to do. And if you're lucky, something will good come out of it. And it's not just lucky. If you create the atmosphere where people feel they can innovate and feel free to innovate, then good things happen, because innovative people attract innovative people. And like one of the reasons we put Start Tank in our London office is I wanted a load of startups to be sat amongst our corporate people, because the energy that comes from those guys influences our guys to start taking risks. And I think really that attitude needs to be encouraged at corporate.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think one of the processes we put in place for the gift program, it is a process, and you have to do the hard work to get to the gift program to get the money, which is what all startups have to do anyway. So it's never easy to get the money. You have to kind of put in the hard work. So we have that structure in place. What about you, Noel?
Yeah, no, I think we'd sort of agree, really. You know, obviously you can measure the amount of activity that you're doing. You know, I can reel off numbers, and you know, like I did, but it's not actually necessarily measuring any kind of success. You know, I think it's exactly, you're exactly right when you said we've got to do it, because otherwise you're not moving forward at all. And it's just the activity of actually doing it. You know, you kind of know if you're not doing it.
Right.
And so the activity of actually investing the time in doing it yields its own kind of sort of benefit as well, because it forces everyone to then move forward as well,
Right.
and keep pace.
David?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had the luxury. So I sit on that kind of that barrier between the two, where the corporate business wants to see, double-digit growth every year, and my job is to kind of manage the portfolio of in-house and out-house to deliver the growth. So, we would look at things like the percentage of profit that we make from products that we've launched in the last 3 years. So you can see if the new stuff is actually driving a percentage of the profit of the overall company. We would look at number of customers that are using our new stuff, product holding, multiple product holding. So we've kind of got all of those. And I suppose the way I see it is that I need a very balanced portfolio. So some innovation that's adjacent to the core business, and some innovation that's in nascent markets, and a kind of a balance, so that I'm kind of keeping the wheel ticking and getting double-digit growth and paying for the team. And then over here, I'm placing some bets. And that sort of balanced portfolio is how I approach it.
Well, it's impressive if you can do the balanced portfolio, because that is difficult. And the demands of being a public company, your investors would rather you do dividends or do buybacks instead of make the investments. But we've kind of made that commitment that we're going to invest in our company because we want to invest in the future. So I would like to maybe turn it over to some Q&A from the audience. Are there mics in the room? We can see we've got some great innovators up here on the stage that have large companies that are trying to tackle innovation every day. So we'd love to hear some questions from the audience.
So one of the issues that I see in quite a lot of large companies is they have these entrepreneurship hubs or something like that, but there's always an issue of getting that into, as you said, into something tangible, into a product. So what would be your tips in terms of getting that from an idea and a concept into something that becomes a product and that's useful for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to have a go at that. So somebody used a phrase in the last presentation in a slightly different context, which was corporate tool. And I'm going to use it in a slightly different context, in that I see my job as the representative of the startups to persuade all of the corporate tools to get out of the way, because actually, we've got plenty of processes that say, it'll take 120 days for us to set you up for payments, and all of that sort of stuff exists. If I'm honest, the team that we have here in O2, it's ring-fenced budget. We're allowed to take some risks. We don't really follow the rules. And, from the overall company's point of view, it's about 2% of the overall cost that we spend. So we're allowed to take those risks, and therefore we can work with the startups in ways that the normal corporate organization wouldn't. And, the examples I gave earlier, we've had as many failures as successes, if I'm honest. So we have had, some failures. But I think the failures were in the early days before we had a team whose job it was to break the rules on behalf of the startups.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
So I think for us, very much is that whole customer introduction thing. So where we make things work is where we find a synergy between us, the startup, and the customer that wants the combined product. And really that, we've got people like Henchman in London. There's 1 hour delivery to anywhere in London of everything, including alcohol, which is great. But they came to us, 4 guys, came into the office, had this great idea. We've helped them. We introduced them to our customers, and now they're growing stupid rates on like 200% month on month, spreading out throughout London. And that was really, they had a good idea. We had some technology to help them, and there were clients that we knew that needed that service. So those 3 combined, you end up with success. And I think you can invest in the technology as a corporate, but you definitely need the customers at the end who are going to use it.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. So but our experience of things like Ping It, which was a kind of internal sort of innovation, that went from that initial idea to launch in about 6 months, and the key was actually getting it out there and trying it. And I mean, that one, turned out to be a good one. We've got 3 million people registered users for it. So we've that sort of worked, but it's about actually getting it out to people and seeing if it flies, and seeing if there's a real kind of market for it, I think.
Okay. Any other questions out there? We have one in the back.
I've got the mic. Hi. So my name's Isaiah, Associate Director at GLISPA, and actually you guys have all kind of touched on the question that I wanted to ask, but it was really directed towards John at PayPal, and you said something really interesting earlier around innovation and not being able to really track this or measure it in terms of success, and I just really wanted to hear you elaborate a little bit more on that concept and how you guys sort of address measuring success of innovation at PayPal.
So we don't measure success innovation. I think that's the main thing. We need to allow, and we try and create an atmosphere where it's okay to innovate. And I think that's the important part of it, because corporates generally, the bigger they get, the more structure they put in, and the more gatekeepers they have. And gatekeepers kill innovation. So if you have people who says, this is my job, you can't touch that, that belongs to me, that completely kills innovation in a corporate. So you need to sort of open up a culture where it's okay to innovate and it's okay to work on someone else's stuff, as long as there's ring fences around it. Obviously, you're not playing with the main database and taking things down and all that kind of stuff. But you've got to build that culture internally that it's okay. Some really interesting, there's a great TED talk on this, but what a lot of companies do is they say, okay, 99% of our innovation come from, say, 4% of our staff. Therefore, what we'll do is we'll create an innovation department. And this innovation department will be in charge of innovation, and we can measure that. Great. Innovation, tick, we've done it. But the truth is, that 1% comes from the rest of your staff. And how do you know that 1% isn't going to be the big changing idea? So if you box it and you close it and you put it like that, then what you actually end up is you're running a risk that something's going to come left field that no one's ever thought at, that might be the way that your company is going to remain big forever. So it's really make sure you've got a culture that doesn't say one group's in charge of innovation, no one else can innovate, but a culture that means everyone is open to have a go and come and speak to you about it.
That's good. Question up here. We have a question in the front. Is there a mic?
Yeah, I have the mic here. Sorry. My name is Guy. I work for AstraZeneca, a big pharmaceutical company. My question is around scaling. What are your challenges around scaling these initiatives to the rest of the organization, I guess from a pilot phase to a world-class product, and how do you meet those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to say that. So, I mean, there could be lots of answers that regards to process and technology and people and whatever, and I'll put all those aside. For me, when I think of the things we've scaled, and we've got, one thing that's got more than 10 million customers on now, that we built from scratch as a digital business, I guess the biggest thing that changed was when we changed the way that people were incentivized. So we used to have a separate kind of standalone business P&L that was around innovation, if you like. And what we did a couple of years ago was we changed that so that any of the money that this separate business made got given to the core business as part of their profit. And suddenly it went from me ringing the core business asking for help to them ringing me with ideas and wanting to help. And actually changing the incentives and aligning us at board level across the business so that we all wanted it to succeed. And actually it wasn't my success, but it was their success, the other board members, when it happened and they felt it in their pockets. Actually, if I'm honest, that cleared out so much of the noise in the system that then meant people, process, technology, and all the other stuff just got fixed.
One last question right here.
I run digital at BlackRock, and like all of you, we've been innovating through technology for decades, but something that we're trying to do is embed design as part of our culture. So I guess this is more for you, Noel. How have you done that at BlackRock? Because within financial services, design is often a dirty word.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm going to say that design is crucial to everything, but I mean, we have millions of customers that use our products, hundreds of thousands of times a day. So actually, though, the experience that someone has with our products is really, really important. And we're facing increasing competition. And people are, our customers are reasonably fickle. If someone's got something that kind of looks slightly cooler or has a neat trick to it, a neater experience, something that is desirable, that is a genuine threat to us. It's not just a sort of frippery. That's a real that could be a sort of market changer just by having a nicer experience, a nicer interface. And so it's crucial that we try and keep pace and move forward on the whole thing. So innovating with technology, but also innovating with experiences. So we're looking at things like conversational interfaces that humanize the conversations that we have with people. But we can do that at scale, and we're looking at other things that if we introduce artificial intelligence into some of our products, how does that feel? How does that behave? And how do we make that okay? How do we, because sometimes it can really feel creepy and unnerving, and it's trying to get that kind of that experience that is believable and trustable and feels humane.
Great. All right, well, gentlemen, I think our time's up. So thanks to unBound. Thank you all for listening to us today, and thanks for this great panel.
Thank you.